Hey, how's it going? It's Terence and Jill.
Hey,
Back
everybody.
at y'all with another one.
Yes, it's been a while since we recorded a video.
Absolutely. And it's actually different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we might need to go back and forth a little bit more just to have that
Mm-hmm.
different vibe.
Yep. We've been doing recording. I'm sorry, we've been going live. We go
Yeah.
live every Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking about what it's like now to be
Hmm.
married, to be a
Yes.
God-ordained union, and reflecting sometimes about what we went through in the waiting room, but
Yes.
also giving some experience now because we are 1 year in.
Yes. Yes. So, if you are new to our channel, please go back, look at the very beginning, learn
Yes.
how we met, learn what we went through, learn how we started evolving into where we are today. So
Yep.
definitely, like, subscribe, hit the notifications, the all, so you can get any notifications when we're going live. So
Yes. Yes. Yes.
share this with everyone you know.
Yep. So I was over
Yes.
50 when we got married, and I was just
Mm.
thinking this month is the month that we saw each other for the first time. We have been talking, we have been in
Mhm.
our dating phase for I'm sorry, we have been in our talking stage, just talking over the phone
Yeah.
for about a almost a year. And then
Mhm.
it was in June. Matter of fact, it was June 12th. Look, I
Look at that. Know
even
the exact
I know
date.
the exact day. It was a rainy
Woo.
Friday, but this is one of the shirts that I had worn when our first dates, and I try to put it back on. It's a little tight now, but yeah, over the last couple of days, I was just reflecting about this month, and 3 years ago is when we saw each other for the first time, which began officially, but unofficially,
Mhm.
our relationship,
Yep.
which we'll talk about and how we started this love
Mhm.
affair, love
Yep.
affair. So,
This lifelong journey.
this lifelong journey and what it was like and all those great things.
Absolutely.
So, I think I have a question.
Yeah.
How how do we make our relationship, our long distance relationship work? Especially because men tend to be touchy feely and needing to be in the company of their woman like all the time. It was easy for me, and it's easy for a lot of women, but what how do we make it work? Hindsight, how do we make our long distance, and even let me just say before you answer that, even though we were only 2.5 hours or so away from each other, you being in Charlotte and me being in Raleigh, it was made a really long distance because we were doing this during the pandemic.
Yeah,
So it
that's
was a
true.
long, it was really considered long distance. So, but how do we make it work?
Well, I mean, for me, I think looking back,
Mm-hmm.
it was important. I think that we didn't discuss this, but I think individually, you have to be committed that that's what you want before you meet the person. I'm serious because I want a long-term relationship. I want my
Right.
soulmate. I want whomever I'm going to marry. I want to meet that individual. So you can't go into it casual, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
doing this like this one night stand type attitude. We
Yeah.
went into, I think, with the commitment and understanding that we both was looking for something serious. And I
Yeah.
think that's really how everything started off the
Yeah,
gate,
yeah,
you know.
I think that we wanted we were committed to the
Yeah.
process, even if it
Yeah.
meant that we were distances apart. Like I was truly, I say it's a faith move. Like love is a faith move, and I was truly committed to putting my all into it.
Yeah. And so to me, because you're going into it with that commitment and understanding that, well, this isn't going to be a short term thing. This
Right.
is, you know, I'm hoping to meet the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. So that right there tells you that you're not going into it thinking that I'm going to see this person and I may not see that person tomorrow, or it's going to be over because we're only going to be together for maybe 90 days or whatever. Then
Mm-hmm.
it's a fling, or you don't go into it with that. And to me, that also helps set the mindset on
Mm-hmm.
knowing that even when conversations may not be perfect, okay, I got to fix this, because if
Mm-hmm.
this with the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, we can't have a falling out over,
Craziness.
something simple or
Mm-hmm.
something that's so minute that we just, go crazy. So I think that commitment in the beginning, off the
Yeah.
gate, was really what set the tone.
Yeah, it was worth the investment,
Yeah,
knowing that you you were eager to look for your wife, and I wanted my husband. So
yeah,
we were committed to going through the process of getting to know each other.
yeah. Because
Even yeah,
you hear people that talk today. Some people think they can turn it on and off at a
right.
at a moment's notice. Like, well, I'm gonna just mess around, and then when I find her, then I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that
get
if yeah,
serious. It's like, well, how you know you found her
right,
when you out here, doing your thing?
right,
I don't. Yeah,
right,
to me, that's a conflict of
right.
interest.
So what else?
So, well, I think that leads right into what I think is probably one of the most important things, is because we have that attitude and that commitment. I think that it led us into not having any type of, we didn't put any pressure on each other. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't any type of expectations
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, well, she has to do this, or she has to say this, or we have to go down this path, or yeah. To me, it was like I was kind of free to say, however it's going to
Right.
evolve into what it's going to evolve in is how it's going to evolve.
Right. Even when we were apart and we were in the talking
Yeah.
stages, it wasn't like, especially I did not assume, because we were in those talking stages and we liked each other, before we even saw
Mm-hmm.
each other. And even after we saw each other, I still did not have the
Mm-hmm.
expectation of he's my man. We were still getting to know each other. There
Yeah.
was no pressure. As a matter of fact, I was quite
Yeah.
surprised when you proposed to me 6 months after we saw each other. So,
So.
so yeah, I like the fact that we didn't have any pressure. But I remember one time when you had came to visit me and you had left that Sunday, and it was like the second or third time you had come to
Mhm.
visit, and I remember thinking, I did think, I wonder what he's thinking. I wonder if he likes me. I wonder if we are in a relationship. But it was like that thought came and went, and I removed the
Mhm.
pressure. I had no,
Yeah.
yeah, there was like no expectations, like he's my man, he can't go because we don't see it. There were no rules on us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and when you only seeing each other for the weekend, it's like you
yeah,
can't get into this. Well, what are you doing during the week when we're
right.
not
Where is he?
together?
Why isn't he calling me? Why
Yeah.
isn't
So
I haven't heard from him? It was none of
yeah,
that.
it
Like
was
when I
none of
did
that.
hear from him, like I didn't hear from you every single day, like especially before we saw each other,
Mhm.
especially because I work
Yeah.
your work schedule. But yeah, I had no. I was just delighted to hear from you when I did.
Yeah.
So
And that, I think that made those conversations enjoyable too.
yeah.
Is that there wasn't any pressure, so it ain't like we had to talk about a particular topic.
Right,
You know.
right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I liked about it. I think the next thing is, because of us being apart, it really made me look forward to seeing you even before we saw each other for the first time.
Hmm.
It's like there was no pressure of when I was going to see you, but even once we got closer to that, the anticipation of starting to say, okay, we've been talking on the phone for a long time. COVID is starting to let up to a point where even
Hmm.
at my job, they was no longer, having those messages out every week saying you can't go 60 miles beyond the distance from the plant, or you got to get a COVID test. And
Right.
so it got to a point where it's like, okay, the thought started to coming in, okay, now I need to plan when my next weekend off, or when that group of days is going to be off, where I can actually take the time to go up there and see you for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. We did some
So
really fun things to start
yeah,
doing some fun things, and that kind of talks about when you said prior we didn't have any expectations
yeah,
because we just wanted to enjoy ourselves, have some
yeah.
fun experiences.
And once we started seeing each other, I started making that drive. That it gave me something to look forward to on the
Yeah,
weekends. Of saying, even if we didn't get to speak every day, I knew that come Friday, I was going to take that drive and go up there.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And what else? What
So
else made our long distance relationship work, baby?
um, the next thing is, I think, we actually did some what I consider fun things
Hmm.
when we spent time together. We found out that we both like to go hiking, and go walking. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we found out that we both like water. We found out that we both like going to see, you know, houses, and that allowed us not to just think about today, but you know, when you go look at houses, you're thinking about your future. You
Yeah.
know, so that gave us an
Model
opportunity to
homes.
see that. Wow, you know, she likes this type of home. I like this type of home, and us looking at different styles, and you know, and kind of conversing back and forth on, you know, what we like, and how big a house we wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah,
Yeah, it kind of merged our
yeah,
dreams together, which makes sense why we in real estate.
yeah.
But
So
yeah, it
so
kind of
yeah,
made us merge our dreams together,
yeah.
and you know, what we wanted individually started merging into Dad. Well, he wants it too.
Yeah,
So
you
yeah.
start, yeah, and you start to be able to put that vision together because you
Hmm.
know you don't want to
Yeah,
be with
it's
somebody that don't have any aspirations. You know,
yeah,
it's
it
like,
started. Yep,
yeah,
that's what really happened.
yeah,
Our individual life started merging
hmm,
together, and we started like that started like merging us. So yeah.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. I think the next thing that was I found out is that actually I like being with you. I like spending time with you. I mean, it ain't
Oh.
that I love you and that's it. You know, I actually like you. You know, so we can hang out and just talk, or we can go out on the balcony, or we can go out to eat, or
Hmm.
we can just do nothing, or we can just get in the car and drive. I mean,
Hmm.
I just like spending time with you. So
Yeah.
that made it easier to again not have any pressure, not have any expectations, but just
Right.
kind of allow God to work it in whatever pace and whatever flow He wanted to, and it just seemed to just go seamlessly.
Right. And I think God's timing is so impeccable because it was the pandemic. You say this all the
Mhm.
time, like all of the fluff had to be removed because our
That's
first
true.
date was
Yeah,
actually at Chili's.
yeah.
And we went to Chili's restaurant because there was
That
like
was the
no
only restaurant
restaurants. It
open.
was the
Yeah,
only restaurant open. And we went
yeah.
and we sat on the patio at Chili's, and they had some nice slow jams playing in the background. And we were like the only ones in the restaurant. And it gave us time to really get to know each other on a raw
Hmm.
level, get to talk, and that made, you know, you didn't have to impress me. You know, there was no,
Yeah.
that was off the table because we couldn't go to a fancy
Yeah, I
restaurant.
think that actually prevented us from trying to impress each other
Yes.
because when we first, when I first started going up there, we couldn't go to places because they wasn't open. You
Hmm.
know, we couldn't go to the movies. We
Hmm.
couldn't go, you know, to out to eat. So it was one of us was going to cook, or we was going to have something delivered or something. You know, it wasn't about going to these nice fancy restaurants and spending a
Hmm.
lot of money because they wasn't open.
Hmm.
So I think it kind of forced us to say, okay, we need to just sit back, be real. There ain't no need to putting that false, you know,
Yeah.
representation of yourself out there in the
Right.
beginning. It just went naturally to say,
Hmm.
well, we can't do X, Y, Z anyway. So
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, so it took all of that off the table, but then we found
Absolutely.
out what we could do, and we could. They said we can do things outside, so
Yeah.
that's what we started
We
hiking
started hiking and
and
yeah.
going to, you know, and then when I started visit. Well, let me just say this:
Yeah.
you visited me for
Hmm.
6 whole months
Yeah.
before I even went to visit your house, your
Yeah.
home.
Hmm.
And I remember when I did go travel to Charlotte to visit you,
Hmm.
um, the first time I went to visit you,
Yeah.
I met your family, your sisters, or your sisters, your siblings, um, because baby girl had come to my house in Raleigh.
Hmm.
But the second time I went to visit you, do you realize the second time I went to visit you at your house is when you proposed? And so, you
Okay.
know, so yeah. But I say that to say, the reason why I thought about that is because that day that I went to visit you, because those 6 months that you had been coming to see me
Hmm.
all the time, uh, we had developed this liking to hike. That day we went
Yeah. We
to
went to Mar Mountain.
Mar
Yeah.
Mountain. We hiked Mar Mountain, and at the top of the mountain was the
Yeah.
perfect opportunity for you to
Yeah.
propose. You
Yeah.
had the ring, but you didn't propose that day. It was later on that night. But that's why I thought about that. But yeah, we started doing things we liked And I did. I was like, ooh, I like him.
Yeah.
Especially when I went to visit your environment, I saw a different side of who you were and who you are. And I was like, I like him. Not just starting to love him and falling in love with him, but I liked being with you. So you're
Yeah.
right. That made it the long distance work. That made,
Yeah, I think when you put people in their natural environment and you allow them to be themselves, I mean, then you learn who they really are.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, it ain't about you. Even when we sit here now, even now, we just came off a 7-day cruise. We just flew to LA and all this stuff that we did for our first year anniversary, but we don't talk about that. We showed that when we first got back. We talk about little stuff like going out here on the balcony
Yes,
and
going about the not
doing
happy
our happy
hour
hour.
because that was
So
what
those are
established us, and again,
those are
that's
the
the
most
happy.
important. So
Those quiet
yeah,
alone
so many
times.
people think that they need these flashy things, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't realize all these moments that
Mm-hmm.
they spend together doing all these little, you know, everyday things that are special. They don't talk about. They try to talk about when they went to the beach or they went on a cruise and it's like, really?
Is
What?
yeah, and it has a lot to
Yeah.
do because it was set from the beginning.
Hmm.
But I started because we had those special moments. What happened is like during the
Hmm.
week when we weren't with each
Hmm.
other, the thoughts of our beautiful
Hmm.
weekends started to. I mean, it sustained.
Yeah.
Well, I know it
Yeah.
sustained
Because
me,
that
and it made me miss you.
mhm,
It made me,
makes you
yeah.
look forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
to the next, whether it was a conversation, whether it was a text, whether it was a post or something on
Mm-hmm.
social media, or whether it was just knowing that, okay, where you at now? Okay, I'm getting in the car. I just put my suitcase in the car. I'm on my, it's like, oh my god, that
Yeah.
anticipation. So yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so
Yes. So yeah. So that's how we made it work,
yeah.
huh?
And so yeah. And I mean, like I said, just enjoying those things. And the one thing that we talked about, I think, when we were in that long period before we saw each other for the first time, we talked about, doing things with each other that we can sustain. And
Mm-hmm.
even now, we still go hiking, we
Yeah.
still do happy hour.
Yeah.
We still drive and look at houses from time to time. Outside of the real estate, we
Outside of
still
our
go look
business.
at
Yeah.
for us,
Yeah.
finding our dream home.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we still do those things that we did from the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning. And although we're still at the beginning stages,
Yeah.
we're still doing those things.
Yeah. Because those were set
Yeah.
in our long
Yeah.
distance.
We're still
And
doing them.
those were set from the beginning. Yeah, it
Absolutely.
makes a difference. I love the fact that we started long
Hmm.
distance because it gave me an opportunity to really think that because you weren't always with me.
Hmm.
So it gave me an opportunity to really think about who you are and who you were and the
Yeah.
possibilities of what we could be. And
And I
and
mean,
then
and it helped too.
mhm,
I mean, think about it. We heard back then the whole country's falling apart. The whole world's falling apart during COVID. But we were sitting there talking like, we was having a blast. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like COVID was actually an awesome time for me because when I would get
or
off
the
work
pandemic,
or the
yeah.
pandemic, it was awesome time for me because when I got off work, got home, I sit there. Sometimes I'm on the floor, right, leaning back on my couch, and we talking on the phone for hours.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't focused on the pandemic. I was
Yes.
focused on our conversation.
Yeah. And yeah. Yeah. It made it.
And
It
so
definitely made a
yeah.
difference. But then, any other points because I know for men, as I said, I think it's hard for men, but I guess you put it in some great perspective that it does not have to be hard. It when you are really committed to not just wanting to find sustainable true love, but also liking the person and everything that comes with it. But is there anything else that like what you think that made us, our long distance work?
Well, I think, well, yeah, we both have a tremendous faith in God.
Ooh. That
And
would be it.
so there's a lot of things that some people might have let get to them. Well, let creep into their minds. Well, what is he doing? What is she doing? Y'all ain't seen each other for a week. Well, who's she talking to? But when you have a faith in God and you know that He's orchestrating your steps and
And your
ordering your
love story.
yeah, and He's putting this together in His timing. Because that was one thing I think we didn't talk about it beforehand, but I think we both had to give into the fact that, like you said, we're now above 50. It's
Yeah.
like we've been single for a long time, wanting to meet that person. So there's a point where you got to give into what God has for you and say, Lord, if it's not meant for me to be with somebody, I need to come to that realization because I'm over 50. But if it is somebody that you have for me, that I still have to trust you that it's still not too late. And so many people are going back and forth about over that fence because they don't really know and they're trying not to be disappointed, but at the same token they're trying not to lose hope at the same time, and they don't know which way to go. So from day to day you got people thinking, well, it ain't gonna never happen, I'm gonna just be by myself. Then tomorrow it's like, well, no, you know what, no, I ain't giving up yet, and so you got to pick a side of that fence and stay on.
Yeah, that's why I believe to this day love is the ultimate faith move. And
Yes.
because even if the person is in South Africa and you are in California, the power of love is a powerful thing. And you just got to be willing to take that leap of faith.
Yes.
Whatever yeah, love has no distance.
And you got to
To
be
me.
committed before you meet that person to the idea that you want to be with your soulmate and you want to
Yeah.
get married. You can't go out there and just be dating and doing your wilding and think that person that you're gonna marry is watching you do your wilding and saying, "Oh, that's a turn on." No, you because that person want to know you're gonna be faithful to them. So
Yeah.
you have to go into a brand new relationship sometimes, I think, with that mindset that I hope this is going to be the person. And if it is the person, what am I going to do to show that person on the gate that I'm worthy of being that person for him or
Right.
her? Or,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
So you
Right.
can't go in it thinking, well, we'll just kick it. And if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. Like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that ain't a good
That
investment.
ain't a good
I
investment
ain't
at
trying to
all.
invest my time,
Yeah.
my long distance
So
heart, none of that. Nah,
yeah,
yeah,
so you have to
yeah.
be committed. I think you have to be committed that that's what you're looking for up front.
Even if
And
even if it ain't that person,
and and
you
if it
gotta
ain't
be
that person, that's look, I've had that conversation.
yeah, you still got to be
Yeah,
committed to the possibility
abs-
of going through the
absolutely.
process. Because
Yes.
unfortunately you could be talking to someone long distance,
Hmm.
and it might not be the person, but you still got to be committed
Yeah.
to. And yeah, that's a great point that you
Yeah.
made. So you got to be committed from the beginning to the
Yeah.
possibility of love. So oh well, thank you, baby.
Well, you're
I'm
very
glad. So
welcome.
1 year in, we
So
ain't giving no relationship advice. This ain't what we do. We
yeah.
just telling you our experiences because we ain't no relationship experts. But
Yes. So if
yeah,
you're seeking, that your soulmate, you're seeking that person, your life partner, then just look at things from that perspective.
yeah, and make that faith move. Yeah,
It's a faith move, and everybody isn't going to be that individual. That's why it's so
mm-hmm.
important to have that mindset and that thought process and
Yeah,
that commitment, is
yeah,
because you don't know who that person may be.
yeah. You got to
So
be
you
willing to
you
get
got
to
to
know
be
them.
willing to give everybody that opportunity to either show that they are or show that they're not.
Yeah. So yeah, good point, baby.
So
All right.
with that
Well,
said, hopefully that have uplifted somebody, or at
yeah.
least give y'all some type of aspirations to say, yeah, it's definitely possible because it happened with us.
Yep.
It's
It is
definitely
definite.
possible.
It is possible. It is
Yes.
possible. All things are possible. And I'm telling you, God ordains love. And if you want it, He got it for you. He got that perfect person for you.
Yes.
But it may mean that He's in a different state or in a
It
different
might.
city.
Yes. You got to be open to that
You got
possibility
to be
if you
open to that.
truly want the one God has for you,
Mhm.
and what that means.
Yeah. And it can work. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. All right. So with that said,
Hey,
yeah.
y'all have a blessed weekend and a
Yes.
great Father's Day.
Yes. Happy Father's Day to you all. All
Yes.
right. Deuces.
Deuces.